Let's get started. Welcome, everyone. Welcome, residents of Brentwood, to the 2020 Mayoral Candidate Forum. My name is Greg Robinson. I am the publisher of the Brentwood Press and Publishing Company, and I'm here tonight with Gerald Johnson, of the Brentwood Chamber of Commerce. Say hello, Gerald.
Hi, my name is Gerald Johnson with the Brentwood Chamber of Commerce. I'm glad to be here and wanted to just thank 110 Magazine for supporting us. And also, it's only with the participation of this informed citizenry that we can continue to make Brentwood a great city and a great place to live. And I'm so happy that you agreed to participate here with us tonight. I want to turn it back over to my great buddy over here, Greg Robinson from the Brentwood Press, that wonderful paper, The Press, excuse me. Greg, take it away.
Gerald, thank you so much. And we also want to thank the Brentwood Chamber of Commerce for stepping up in a big way and coordinating all of the technological part of our session tonight. And again, thank Trish at 110 for helping support this. All right, so again, thank you all in advance for joining us tonight to be a part of this democratic process. At this point, I would like to introduce Ruth Roberts, our managing editor here at the Press, and our mediator for the evening. Ruth, take it away.
Good evening. And again, welcome. We appreciate the candidates participating in tonight's event and look forward to an informative forum. I'm just going to quickly run through the rules for this evening and then introduce the candidates. Each candidate will begin with a 90-second opening statement, followed by a series of 8 questions in an order that was predetermined prior to this evening as to how the candidates will answer, the order. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to respond, and then we'll move on to the next candidate until everyone has answered the same question. Then we'll go on to question number 2, and so on. There will be a person timing the responses, and we'll count you down, candidates, at 20 seconds, 10 seconds, and then stop. I will let you finish your sentence if you're midway through, but please finish up so we don't have to hit the mute button. After all the questions have been answered, the candidates will again have the opportunity for a 90-second closing statement, and then that's going to wrap us up. So let's get started and introduce the candidates, and good luck to everyone tonight. First, we have Edward Schuck, Karen Rary, Joel Bryant, and Ryan Rinaldi. Again, welcome candidates, and let's get started. Edward, you will receive the first question, and the topic is fire safety. Understanding that the city of Brentwood has no legal obligation to the ECCFPD, what do you believe the city should do, if anything, to help resolve the fire district's persistent funding problems that are manifested in service level deficiencies?
So Ruth, thanks. That's a great question, but were we going to do introductory statements for 90 seconds first?
We sure are. Well, let me back up again and we'll start with Edward. Go.
Thank you. So my name is Edward Schuck, and I'm running for mayor in order to support our local police, fire, and emergency services. I've worked for the past 9 years as a sworn peace officer throughout Contra Costa County. During that time, I've seen neighborhoods in places like Antioch that are riddled with crime, drugs, gangs, and poverty. Thankfully, Brentwood is still a beautiful city, but because of residential overdevelopment, Brentwood has a police force that needs more officers, an imbalance between business and housing that forces long commutes, and a tragically underfunded fire protection system. My goal is to see that they get the funding they need and not just more empty promises from City Council. Tonight, some of my opponents will undoubtedly talk about their records as members of City Council. As they do, I want you to remember that they have been in office for years in a well-funded city, but have failed to resolve these issues. You should also know that some of them have accepted campaign contributions from housing developers, even when Brentwood citizens have called out loudly to stop the building until we can get our city's services running right. Actions speak louder than words. I'm not a politician. I'm a local law enforcement officer. And you have my commitment to speak plainly about these issues, to be honest and transparent, and just to call them as I see them. I've accepted $0 from developers and I will work tirelessly for you by fully funding our police services, supporting our fire protection district, and voting no on any new housing development unless the developers pay up to fund our broken infrastructure needs. Thank you.
All right. Karen?
I'm next.
Yes, you are.
Okay, all right. So I'm Karen Rary, the right choice for Brentwood Mayor. I'm honored and humbled to have dedicated nearly 4 years serving our community on Brentwood City Council. As we maneuver through this exceptional time in history, I know we have an amazing opportunity to transform Brentwood into the charming, safe, diverse, and economically thriving city it is destined to be. I believe quality of life in Brentwood means quality jobs, increased fire protection, improved public safety, and smart growth. My commitment is to cultivate a climate that encourages economic development by partnering with our neighboring cities to attract companies to our region, working with the governor's Go Biz team to identify companies for Brentwood, and working with our local businesses to not only help them recover from COVID, but to also help them grow. My pledge is to continue focusing on increased fire protection by identifying sound long-term solutions to budget shortfalls, which includes working with Oakley and the county. I also pledge to continue to fight to improve public safety, both here in Brentwood and at the state level, as a Public Safety Policy Committee member. My guarantee is that I will continue listening to the community and city staff to create smart growth goals for Brentwood, mitigate challenges that come with expansion, and preserve the agricultural land surrounding us. Brentwood is where I've raised my family and the city I'm proud to call home. I know Brentwood. I understand the people of Brentwood, and I'm working towards our shared vision of Brentwood.
Great. Thank you, Karen. Joel?
Joel, you're muted. There you go.
Thank you. I'm Joel Bryant. I've been on the Brentwood City Council for 10 years, 7 of which I have been vice mayor. This has allowed me to not only understand the requirements of the job, but I've been acting mayor numerous times over the years in Mayor Taylor's absence. During this time, I've helped to bring our own police dispatch and 911 response to Brentwood,
My teleprompter.
chaired the general plan working group for 2 years, which gave us the protection and community vision of our current general plan, and brought critical infrastructure needed to bring high-tech, high-paying jobs to our community. Being vice mayor has allowed me to develop the essential relationships on a federal, state, and local levels to continue to bring financial and structural resources into the city, as well as have immediate access to heads of corporations and medical institutions who are seeking locations to move to or to multiply their significantly current investment. I believe in surrounding myself with the experts in their fields and working collaboratively to find and implement the best solutions. I help to lead the city out of the recession and into a prosperous and safe community that we all love. I'm proud to have the endorsements of Mayor Taylor, the building trades, and our local firefighters, whom I will continue to partner with to bring a real solution to our fire and emergency needs. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ryan?
Good evening. I'm excited to be here. I wanted to thank the Chamber of Commerce and the press for putting it on. I think it's a great opportunity. You know, when I started this journey, people called me crazy. They asked, why would you want to do this to yourself? and I had one answer for them, and that's I have a passion to serve people. I'm indebted to this community. I have a feeling I'm indebted to it, to raising me to the man I am today. And so I saw an opportunity. To pursue my passion, and not only that, offer Brentwood something new, something they haven't had in a very long time. And so while I'm young, that also means I'm not beholden to anyone. And I'm excited about that, excited to bring a fresh perspective to Brentwood. And I intend to keep it that way. So I appreciate it, and I'm asking for your vote.
Great, thank you. Okay, now let's get to the questions, and I'll reread the first one since it was such a good one. The topic is fire. Edward, this is your question. Understanding that the city has no legal obligation to the ECCFPD, what do you believe the city should do, if anything, to help resolve the fire district's persistent funding problems that are manifested in service level deficiencies?
Thanks, Ruth. So like I said, I think it is a great question. I think it's one of the most important questions that we're facing today in Brentwood. The local wildfires threatened homes and businesses literally on our doorstep. My brother was evacuated during those fires, partly because we do not have adequate fire service to get those kind of emergencies under control quickly and safely. I think that Brentwood's role really needs to be as a leader in supporting East Contra Costa County Fire Protection District. I did meet just last week with Chief Helmet, as well as the fire marshal and some of the union staff. And I think that it is absolutely clear that they are the fire experts when it comes to developing a plan and implementing it as to how we are going to get 3 new fire stations within the next few years and 6 total fire stations in the next 20 years. They have a great plan already designed that you can find at their website. I've also linked to it at my website. And I think that supporting them and not trying to branch off into 15 different directions that are going to pull funding and pull resources away from them is really going to be the best path forward. Chief Helmet made it very clear to me that he really appreciates the support of the mayoral candidates in supporting their plan, and when the time comes to look at how they're going to increase their funding, that we would sit down and have that conversation and bring the issue before Brentwood so that we can all be on the same page supporting our fire protection folks, our fire protection services, and not trying to go in a bunch of other directions that are going to pull resources away from what is clearly a plan that will give us 6 new fire stations over the next 20 years. Thank you.
Thank you. Karen, your turn. Thank you.
You know, when I got on the fire, or when I got onto the city council, I volunteered to be on the fire ad hoc. And we did do research. We looked into what it would take to open up a Brentwood only fire department. We were looking at about $17 million a year to do that, plus startup costs of about $10 million. And we would still have to service the surrounding areas around us as in auto aid and mutual aid. So even though we've separated from them, we'd still be augmenting East Contra Costa Fire Protection District. We did work with them, and in 2018, during a council budget workshop, as well as at a fire ad hoc, I brought up the fact that we should have community facility district assessments annually for new development, as well as increasing the fire developer impact fees. And what that has done, in conjunction with the fire district in 2019, we have been able to stop the hemorrhaging of the fire district by, when new growth comes, they are paying for community facility district assessments and increased fire protection or increased developer impact fees, which will fund 3 new stations and staff those new 3 stations. What we need to do is we need to work on the deficit. And that deficit, it's a regional thing. We need to work with the county, and we need to work with Oakley, and we need to come together, and we need to fund it together to make up that deficit. And so that's the next steps, is to work with the county, work with the fire district, and work with Oakley to pay for some of that deficit out of our own funds.
Thank you, Karen. Joel?
Yes, having been the president of the fire board for 5 years and on it since 2010, I was very much a part of the team that brought it from the terrible mess that we inherited from the consolidation of the former fire stations over the years into what East Contra Costa became and had. And it took us several years to figure out the finances and line everything up so that we could have a plan, find out what the plans were, find out what finances the district had. And in working with the city, I'm also on the city fire subcommittee as well with Councilperson Rary. And I absolutely agree with the process that the fire district is bringing forward. But like has already been said, we are part of a district, and that's going to require everyone in the district to step up to the plate to fund it, not just have Brentwood pay for all of the fire resources that the entire district has. We already shoulder a significant portion of those, but it's time for the city of Oakley and the county board of supervisors to come to the table, and they have worked with us. The board of supervisors has worked with us, especially in the last few years, to come up with a solution. The fire district is supporting Measure X, and I am going to get behind what the fire district has. I had the honor of actually hiring Chief Helmick, and there was a very good reason for that. He has done a brilliant job. He knows the needs of this district and the needs of the city of Brentwood. And so I think we need to continue as a city to work with them. We are right on the verge, finally, of being able to accomplish a sustainable fire protection service here in Brentwood.
Great, thank you. And Ryan.
I think the first thing we have to do is recognize that Brentwood has a responsibility to fire and emergency services. We often pass the buck on Brentwood and push it off somewhere else. But first and foremost, we have a responsibility. And we talk a lot about plans, but we rarely get any results. And so what's important to remember is that there's a deficit in ECCFPD, and it's not going to go away without a new source of revenue. And while there could be, more fire stations down the road, there isn't right now. And so what is Brentwood doing right now to improve medical response times, to improve response times in Brentwood? And so what I'd love to see is an advanced life-saving unit through the city of Brentwood, funded through the CIP budget and insurance fees, so as not to cut the general fund or to cut or increase your taxes. And so you need that immediate plan to go into action, so that residents can go to sleep at night without worrying whether or not their ambulance will show up if they were to have a heart attack or something worse. So and so that's my perspective on fire and emergency services. I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, now we're going to move on to public safety. Karen, this question will go to you first. How would you respond to the calls heard across the country this year for the defunding of police in favor of increased funding for proactive social programs? And would you consider and support using city funds to add a mental health crisis response team to the Brentwood Police Department?
That's a great question. There's a couple things that I don't think the majority of the residents are aware of. And first off, with the crying to defund or to reallocate funding to other sources, we found that there are things that are already taking place in our county. We have a mental health emergency or engagement team that already comes out with our police officers. I was out on a ride along when a young man had threatened suicide, and 2 people came out to help address this. There's also resources that are available through the county to help people with mental health. And it's a matter of just calling 211 or going to the county's health services website to look these things up. But there's also other services that the county provides that that I'm not sure people are aware of. There is a coordinated outreach referral engagement team that goes out there to the homeless, and they help to assess, they provide services, they help to bring people into shelters or find them housing somewhere else. They also evaluate the homeless that are out there and whether or not they need mental health as well. And then they send somebody out from the mental health engagement team to go and assess them and possibly get them in for help or services. So those are the variety of things that we're already doing. Our police department is also going through restorative justice training right now to help find other avenues in order to not put people into the system, but to instead help them find an outside resource or a program that we can help them get better. And that's where we stand.
Edge of the frame showing, but I can't tell the size.
Thank you, Karen. Joel?
Well, as has been mentioned already, the end part of that question has already been addressed and is being addressed not only at a city level, but a county level as well. But as far as defunding the police, there is no way that a city can remain safe and protected when the police officers don't have the resources that they need. As a current police chaplain, I'm often on scene at all hours of day and night during the tragic situations that happen in homes and families. And I'm working regularly with our police officers, riding with them. Although we do have a very safe community, it's only because our police department is able to be proactive in responding to some of these crises and the criminal elements that come into town. And under no circumstances would I ever consider for one moment endangering our families' lives and our businesses by defunding the police department. If you're going to have a prosperous and successful city, you're going to have a safe city. If you don't have a safe city, nothing else matters. New homes don't matter, new buildings don't matter, new jobs don't matter, because if you're not safe, nobody's going to stay in town to live here to take advantage of that. And so our police department and our police officers are the first line of defense from Brentwood becoming what some of our surrounding communities are experiencing. And we need to make sure that we continue to support them, not just financially, but emotionally. Keep sending your support to them online. Keep sending support to the department. Wave at them with all of your fingers at one time and show them that they are loved and their sacrifices are appreciated. But under no circumstances should we ever defund the police. We need more police officers. And I promised, if I'm elected mayor, to continue to add more police resources to keep us as safe as possible for as long as possible.
Thank you, Joel. Ryan, you're next.
I think the first and foremost, I do not support defunding the police in any sense of the concept. I think we are actually missing our fifth beat, and I'd like to see that re-implemented as soon as we're recovered from the pandemic. But I think there's a second part of that question that hasn't really been answered, and that is mental illness. What is the city doing about mental illness? And I think where we're finding an issue with that is the lack of nonprofits in our area, the lack of nonprofits in the city of Brentwood. And I think that's primarily because Brentwood has stopped funding nonprofits, getting them started. The last time they did that was the Village Resource Community Center in 2004. And so I'd love to see the city of Brentwood start to pursue opportunities to introduce new nonprofits and provide that mental health service that we've been missing. And so thank you. I appreciate it.
And Edward.
Thank you. So as potentially your next mayor, I have a lot to say about this question. I want to start off by talking about a couple of things that we can all agree with. First of all, racism is evil, and we denounce racism. I denounce it, and I know the people of Brentwood denounce it. Second of all, police brutality is wrong, and I personally denounce police brutality, and I know the people of Brentwood denounce police brutality. I've worked as a peace officer for the past 9 years. For the past several, I've worked as a deputy probation officer for Contra Costa County. I work specifically with populations that experience homelessness, poverty, drug addiction. I've worked with youth and their families. And because of these things, I can tell you with absolute certainty that defunding the police will get you the exact opposite of what you want if you support these beliefs that I've mentioned. A well-funded police department is critical to the safety, security, and well-being of the community. And I fully support our funding the fifth beat for Brentwood Police, and will continue to support increasing our police services, especially our training, equipment, and going forward, making sure that we have a police force that's going to be part of the solution rather than part of the problem. Like almost any other service industry, the more you pay your police officers, the more money, the more resources they have available, the better likelihood that you will have a high quality, well-trained, well-funded police force. That is absolutely critical in order to address the political issues of the times. I think that our police are absolutely outstanding in the job that they do every day. They 100% have my support. And I know from the experience of putting on a badge every day that you are making yourself a target for all kinds of evils out there in the world. I thank our police force for the incredible job that they do, and I will support them 100%. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question kind of segues a little bit into what we were just talking about. Joel, you'll go first, and the topic is homelessness. A county study conducted this year identified East County as having the largest homeless population in the county. In Brentwood, according to county statistics and their current numbers, there are approximately 80 homeless people in the city. What are your plans to address the homeless situation in Brentwood?
Well, I'd like for there to be a little clarification. Having been someone that worked for a homeless sheltering group in Los Angeles for many years, there are significant differences in what the definitions of residents versus the state considered a homeless person to be. Significantly, in Brentwood, we have somewhere in the neighborhood of 35 to 38 actual resident homeless individuals that our police department knows by name, and we offer services and we deal with them on a regular basis. The additional numbers were a part of a new process that they had a point in time survey, and at that point in time, there were some individuals that were living in their cars and living in vehicles and staying in town. And so regardless of whether they're the permanent homeless or temporarily displaced, or even people traveling through town in their cars, one of the only solutions that we have, in addition to what the county is offering, the city of Brentwood cannot afford to have our own homeless shelter and build our own homeless facilities. But what we can do, very similar to what the family justice centers have done, that we do partner with as well, for abused families and women that are abused and children, we can start working at a county level with every city to invest in strategically placed locations that are resources for our community members, and continue to have the ability not only to provide local assistance, but also a more permanent pathway to get them back on their feet into mental health facilities that they need, into drug abuse facilities that they need. We cannot turn our back on our residents. Many of these are our family members and our residents here in town, but we have to do it in a way that's sustainable, because it doesn't help anybody to give them a few months worth of help and then they're out on their own.
Thank you, Joel. And I appreciate you asking for the clarification. Those numbers did come from the point in time survey study that put together from the county. So those are where my 80 numbers of the homeless are coming from. Ryan?
Sure. Thank you. I'm glad you asked the question. The first thing to recognize is that Brentwood doesn't have the funding or the resources to sustain their own shelter. And quite honestly, that doesn't help a lot of the times. I spoke with a representative from Diane Burgess's office from the county, and she discussed the concept that there has to be more housing availability and something to be more affordable for them to get back on their feet.
I don't know how to do
What
that.
we don't
Just
have
20
right
years.
now, and what we lack was what's called life cycle housing, where students, teachers, people that can't necessarily afford to live in Brentwood to live in Brentwood. And so we have to begin to offer those opportunities, life cycle housing, affordable options, so that those of our homeless can get back on their feet and get housed. And so thank you.
Thank you. Edward?
Thank you. So as I mentioned before, working as a probation officer, I frequently work with people hands-on that are experiencing homelessness, that have experienced homelessness. And the sad reality is a large percentage of people that are dealing with homelessness have a significant drug addiction problem. Oftentimes people will point to mental health. That's absolutely part of the problem as well. But the addiction problem is going to be the primary cause of people remaining in long-term homelessness. I'm not talking about people that occasionally, have fallen on hard times and don't have a place to stay for a few weeks, but people that are constantly and continuously homeless. It is largely linked to serious addiction problems. If we want to address that, the way to address that is to partner with all of the resources in the county, having local resources and being able to refer to county mental health, county housing services. We have an incredible array of services already in place for people that wish to work to get out of a homeless situation. The unfortunate truth is it's very hard to work with someone that doesn't necessarily want to or isn't ready to deal with the problems that brought them to homelessness in the first place. So ultimately, my solution would be to look at a variety of city ordinances to make sure that we are discouraging the homeless population from coming to and staying in Brentwood, while also referring them to services at the county level, shelters and food banks and mental health services and drug addiction services are going to be the key in order to address the homelessness problem. Again, ultimately, the sad truth is you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And Karen.
So this is a regional issue. This isn't just a Brentwood issue or an Oakley or a Concord or whatever. This is a regional issue, and we need to work on this regionally. And while the county does provide services, they do have the coordinated outreach referral engagement team that goes out there and meets with the homeless and tries to offer them services or gets them places in shelter. What we need to do is look at how we can work together as cities. Down in Orange County, they're currently doing this. They just opened up 2 navigation centers. They don't call them homeless shelters because these navigation centers are set up to succeed, to help these people get off the streets and into homes and have a productive job. And it's working down there. And they've used a formula that determines how many you pay based on how many homeless are in your area, or if there's already a shelter in that town. And they have come together to create this incredible, these 2 incredible navigation centers. And I think instead of us pushing the homeless from one town to the next, that they're and then they're going to get pushed back the other direction. We need to look at what we can do on a regional basis and work together to resolve this issue.
Great, thank you. Now we'll move on to development, different topic, and the topic being Bridal Gate. Ryan, you're going to go first on this, and here's the question. The Planning Commission recently voted to recommend the council deny the contentious Bridal Gate development project. The developer then decided to postpone bringing it before the council for consideration until after the election. Where do you stand on this project?
Sure, I think Bridal Gate is a perfect example of sort of the status quo that's been in Brentwood for a long time. For one, I'll get out of the way. I completely oppose Bridal Gate. It's rezoning residential or rezoning commercial into residential, which is off limits. And so the important thing to remember is the majority of city coffers consists of developer fees. It's enticing for Brentwood. We've tried to do it for a long time. Bridal Gate is a desperate attempt to continue to do that. And that's exactly what I'm not. I'm not the status quo, and that's not what I intend to do. And so if you want to bring business, you want to improve the sustainability in Brentwood for a long term, you have to begin to prioritize business over housing development. And Bridal Gate is a perfect example of how we can take that stand. And so thank you.
All right. Thank you. Edward.
So I'll be very blunt, so there's no misunderstanding about my position. I will be a no vote to any new housing development unless and until our police, fire, and other infrastructure services are fully funded. I do not see the logic and reasoning at all behind continuing to expand our housing development when we already do not have the services to effectively protect and manage the citizens here in Brentwood. I do support new business development, and I would be very open to discussing development of additional businesses and commercial space in the city of Brentwood. So ultimately, I think that you'll hear a bunch of different versions of a similar opinion on this issue, but the long and the short of it is that the people of Brentwood have spoken very clearly. They're very well aware that our commute times are very high, our services are underfunded, and that developers have gotten away with sort of paying little bits and pieces here and there for the past 20 years. It hasn't been effective, and we need to look at seriously redesigning the way the city gets its funding and put a pause on housing development until we can address all of the other issues that are before us. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Karen?
Unfortunately, as a sitting council member, I don't have the luxury of an opinion on any development that's coming into town. If I voice my opinion in support or against something and give reasons why without waiting until it's come before us on the agenda, before I'm able to hear every last public comment that's made, before the applicant is able to answer questions, the chances of me having to be recused from voting on that is almost 100%. You know, but what I can say is that I ran on smart growth last time. I'm running on smart growth this time. We need to follow our general plan, and we can no longer allow commercial to be changed over to residential. We've already lost too much. We've lost over by the police station where La Paloma was put in. We lost the light industrial that was supposed to go around there, because once the school site went in there, putting light industrial around it never worked, didn't work. And that was before my time on the council. Another was along the railroad tracks off of Balfour and Brentwood Boulevard. The homes that are built there, and I think they're cluster homes, those were also supposed to be light industrial, and they're now homes, cluster homes, to top it off. So we can no longer keep changing our general plan. We need to build our commercial, and we need to stay focused on building our commercial.
Okay, thank you. And Joel?
Well, again, I can't specifically speak on anything that might directly come to council because I would be required to recuse myself. But having said that, and being the chair of our current general plan for 2 years, and having been the one that approached and requested and recruited the residents and the businesses in the community to make sure that the input was from a completely diverse, different groups and organizations and thought processes, I'm very proud of our current general plan. It took a lot of hard work by a lot of people to get to where we are. And so any changes to that general plan, I can't help but feel that I take it a bit personally. We have worked very hard to protect our commercial property and our commercial zoning in town. And regardless of what people present, we have to keep our commercial properties. We specifically designed, and I did also co-chair the PA1 specific plan, which butts right up to that, for our commercial. If we lose our commercial, we will not be able to have a sustainable business plan for the future of Brentwood. We won't have it. It can't happen. And that's why we fought so hard to plan and zone what we did in the general plan and in the PA1 specific plan. And so if we start making exceptions wholesale, then it won't be very long until we lose every opportunity to maintain the vision that the entire community came together and helped us to present as the general plan. And so we've got to be very cautious, very careful in the movement in the future. At the same time, we've got to take into consideration that there are developments that have by right, by law, they own a piece of property and the law says that they can build something there, but the city council is responsible to make sure that it's the kind of development that will help us maintain sustainability. We only use about 20% of our budget nowadays that comes from development. 80% of it is basically other resources. So we're prepared for that.
Thank you. And Ryan?
I already answered the question.
Okay, I'm sorry, my bad. I'm having a hard time.
No
Let's
worries.
move on. Edward, you're going to be up again. The topic is growth. Do you support the Innovation Center at Brentwood, also known as PA1, and the plan as it stands? How do you think Brentwood can best overcome its housing-rich, jobs-poor challenges?
Sure. So great question. First of all, I do support the Innovation Center. I think that while there are some challenges to exactly how it would be implemented, I think that there are challenges that we can overcome as a city. And I think that it's something that is absolutely moving in a positive direction for Brentwood. I have a three-step plan for bringing business and getting our economy moving again. The first step for that is to reopen Brentwood's economy now. We need to reopen our schools. We need to reopen our businesses. People are suffering. Our children deserve a quality education, which they are not getting through distance learning. And our people deserve to be able to have their businesses flourishing again. The amount of damage that is being done to our economy and to the health, the mental health, as well as the physical health of our people is not outweighed by the COVID virus at this point. While I certainly support a variety of safety measures, I think that it is absolutely imperative that the next mayor be an advocate for reopening as soon as possible and as fully as possible. Second, I want to look very critically and very seriously at removing regulations, fees, and other hurdles to having new businesses open here in Brentwood, as well as some of the impact that they have on our existing businesses. If we can roll back some of those regulations and remove some of those fees to make it a more business-friendly environment, that will be critical in order to make us a competitive city to come to in the future for businesses. Finally, I want to specifically focus on tech jobs. Right now, there are a huge number of companies in Silicon Valley that have closed down their major offices and are looking for smaller spaces in order to supplement their needs. I think that we can target them. I will target them as the next mayor and try to give them incentives and attract them to Brentwood so that we have high-paying jobs, high-quality jobs, not just another minimum wage job here in Brentwood. Thank you.
Thank you. Karen?
When I got on the council, the first thing we did was we adopted an economic development strategy action plan. And that in that, it told us what types of jobs we should be focusing on. And those are your biotech, your high tech, your clean energy, your research and development, your advanced manufacturing, and also medical and food processing. And so those are the types of clustered industries we're going to focus on. With that, that is what we want to bring to the Innovation Center at Brentwood. We then went into doing the zoning for the 430 acres in Northwest Brentwood. And that is where the Innovation Center for at Brentwood is. And it will, I'm sorry, Ruth, when I look at the screen, I see Ruth and all I see is someone talking. So anyway, so we have the Innovation Center at Brentwood, and that was zoned for that first year. The next part of it comes out as an environmental impact report. We also had approved $11.5 million in infrastructure improvements to bring the wet utilities underneath Highway 4. And we're currently in a master planning process in order to bring jobs to this area. So once they do the master planning, which should be done within 6 months, we will be able to begin marketing that within a year and start bringing jobs in soon after that.
Great. Thank you. Joel, you're up.
Well, yes, I absolutely support it. One of the things that I immediately began to do when I got on council was I began to make partnerships with companies that would bring in the infrastructure and give us the possibility to attract some of these high-tech corporations into town. So I helped spearhead the process of partnering with Sonic Internet, and we were able to have them at no cost to the city and about a $15,000 a year savings to the city bring in fiber optic connectivity, gigabit fiber optic connectivity. We're only one of 2 cities in the state that have that, one of 2 cities in 14 cities in the country that have that. And what that means is that they can literally come into town and be able to connect into the same fiber optic network that they do in San Ramon, so that they don't have to travel over the hill. The whole point of this is to give our families and the people that are traveling out of town 3 to 4 hours of their life a day back. In addition to that, people spend money where they work. And so we capture those dollars. That money stays in Brentwood. It keeps us from having to have additional taxes and raise revenue otherwise. We give a quality of life to our families back. We keep that money in so that money can fund our resources and the needs of the growth in the city as we can reach build out. And in the process of that, we are now a genuine opportunity for someone that COVID has had an interesting result in the thinking of a lot of these corporations. Many of them have stated that they will always have some form of work without transit in place. And we are the perfect size, we offer the perfect lifestyle, and we're in the perfect location to be the first choice for these corporations. And so, yes, absolutely, with everything that we have already been doing and the things that we're working on, we are already in talks with these corporations, letting them know we're here, and I'm excited about it.
Great, thank you. And Ryan?
I think the first thing we have to recognize is that we're living in unprecedented times, in desperate need of something new, something innovative. I think the first thing to attack is the 2018 Economic Strategy Plan. That was passed over 2 years ago, and we simply haven't seen any action taken from that plan. There are sections in there regarding economic incentive and reviewing our red tape laws. We haven't seen any action on that. We still have lots of red tape and zero incentives, specifically for our small businesses. One of the big things that I hear complaints from are the sign ordinances in Brentwood. It takes over $2,000 to $2,500 to set up a sign. And that's not to buy the sign, that's simply to get the permit to put it up. And so it's unnecessary regulations like these that have to be reviewed, and putting together a task force for that specific purpose is necessary for the future of Brentwood. The second thing is understanding that Brentwood is moving towards a more satellite model. Even the world is really moving towards a more satellite model, and we are a perfect place to adapt to that. Identifying those large employers and bringing them here once we have the infrastructure, we can absolutely sustain it, because the important thing is keeping Brentwood residents here from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Well, prior to COVID, we had 80% of our residents leaving Brentwood. If we can keep them here, that's when you see tax revenue increase. And the last thing I'd love to see is cooperation with the Chamber of Commerce, and bringing them in as an arm, as a lobbying arm for what would help Brentwood businesses. And so those are sort of kind of the 3 main facets that you have to attack to improve sort of that business friendly environment that we lack in Brentwood. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan. Moving on to a different topic, and that is contributions. Have any of you accepted contributions from developers or special interest groups to fund your campaigns? If so, who are they? And how much have you received? If not, where is your funding coming from? Karen, we'll start with you.
This campaign, I have not taken anything from any developers other than a commercial developer who has 2.5 acres of land that she has left to develop. And I have received funding from from several unions. My brothers were both lifetime tradesmen, one a carpenter and one an electrician. And I'm proud to say that I have received funding from them, as well as two other unions. But that is all that I've received this campaign.
And how much did you receive from each of those groups?
There was $1,500 from the from the electricians. I think 500 from the carpenters, 1,500, I think, from the operator engineer, local 3, and I forget what the last one was, but it was a couple hundred, I think 250.
Thank you.
Small,
Joel,
small compared to the rest of the donations I've received from both the public. I've received about $7,500 in Brentwood residents donations. I've received a $5,000 donation from my parents. And then there was, I believe, $3,600 from those 4 unions.
okay, thank you. Joel?
Yes, I have received donations from lots of residents, lots of local businesses. I also have been endorsed by the trade unions as well as the fire district. And yes, I have taken some. I believe the largest check I've received so far is $2,500 at this point in time from one individual. But one of the things that I want to make very clear is that I have the voting history, I have the working history of showing that just because someone donates to me, and this is what I tell every single person, whether you donate to my campaign or you don't donate to my campaign, that doesn't give you any preference over what I'm willing to do for you. I will listen to what you have to say, but at the same time, if it's not the right thing for Brentwood, then it's a no from me. One of the benefits of having campaign accounts that everyone that does have one is aware of is that the funds that go in there are, number one, they're all public, but secondly, that you are able to use those for very specific things, such as donating to local nonprofits, which I have had the joy of doing over the years. If there's any funds left in my campaign account after a campaign, I am able to donate to the Lions Club, to do things for the Rotary, the Police Activities League, which I every year spend a lot of money out of that campaign account that's been put in by developers and local businesses and residents and families and my own family. And we're able to buy these things to help put back into the resources of our community. So I'm more than happy to take money from people to hold the line for our general plan, for the vision of our community. And if that means that the person that's wanting to develop has paid me to fight against them, then I'm happy to take his money to fight against them to make sure we have what we want the way we want.
All right, thank you. Ryan?
So I think the first thing to recognize is a little bit about campaign finance. And an important thing to remember is that money from prior elections can absolutely play a role in elections today. And you'll notice that from some of the other candidates here. They have transferred money from the previous accounts to the account here, and you can simply go online and look for that. My campaign is completely grassroots. We've raised a little over $5,000, and I'm forever grateful for it. And those are everyday residents. Those are residents that believe in me. Some I don't know, some I do. And it's simply because they want to see something new. They want to make a statement to Brentwood that we've had the same thing for a very long time. And it's time for something new. It's time for a change in leadership to get some things done. And so I've taken a few from small business owners that believe in me, and amounts ranging from $0 to $100 from residents, simply because they believe in what we're doing. But I wouldn't be fooled by what is exactly happening in this election, because prior elections absolutely play a role. And while I have not run in a previous election, some of the other candidates have. And so I think it's important to look into that and realize where some of the money's coming from, because campaign finance can get a little tricky, and it's very easy to hide exactly who you're getting money from. So thank you. Appreciate it. If you have any other questions.
Thank you. Excuse me. Edward?
So again, I'm going to be very straightforward. I have taken $0 from unions. I have taken $0 from developers. What little campaign financing I have accepted has been from family and my own self-funding. I am running to get rid of some of the issues that we have had where there's some questionable things going on. It's one of the reasons why I got in the race, was that I did not see someone that I felt really was matching up with my values and supporting the things that I believed in. The word I want to use to describe campaign finance problems is relationship. And it's kind of a sticky word because it really covers all manner of sins. You don't necessarily have to do something that's evil or wrong in order to have a relationship with a housing developer or a relationship with a special interest group. And once you've accepted money from someone like that special interest group or developer, it's very easy for them, because they have a relationship with you, to call you up and say, hey, so-and-so, let's go out for coffee. Let's chat about this, that, and the other. Hey, by the way, did you hear about this idea I had for this new project or this new development or this new special interest issue? So again, I'm not accusing anyone of any specific wrongdoing. I just think that it is very hard to swallow to see that on one hand, there are significant amounts of money coming into campaign funds, and then on the other hand, to say that that doesn't have any effect on a decision-making process. I think that is probably not entirely a fair statement. I'll conclude with that.
Okay, thank you. We will move on to the next question of how will you work with our neighboring cities to better the business environment for the entire East County? Joel, you get to go first with that.
Well, we'll continue to partner with, as we're doing, each local city in the East Bay area in East Contra Costa County have very specific things that they're able to bring to the table, that when we work together as an area for growth in businesses, in technology, we are much more attractive as a group than we are individually, in which each of us are somewhat limited in certain areas. So I would continue to work. I currently am the city's representative to the mayor's conference. I get to spend time with every single mayor in Contra Costa County monthly, going over the ideas and the plans that they're having and making, and partnering with different communities to see if we can use the leverage of these partnerships and skill sets that we offer as a city and as an area geographically to be more attractive. The key to that is making a reverse commute or preventing a commute altogether to benefit our families here in town. And so if we can get a corporation that is able to see what Brentwood has to offer, but also knows that we're partnering with our neighboring cities to bring some of the things that we don't currently offer, then that makes us very much more attractive. And that is exactly what has already begun to happen.
All right. Thank you. Ryan.
It takes multilateral cooperation. I've met with council members from other cities, and they're in what's wonderful about this is a lot of the cities are similar in where they are and what they're trying to attract. And so if you create that cooperation and you build that infrastructure together, that's when you can introduce more business. But at the same time, I think it's important to recognize that as much as they are friends, we are also competitors. And so if you want to offer more business, then you have to be able to work with them, but you also have to maintain that balance of making sure that we are the most business friendly city in the area. But with that being said, the Amazon distribution center, for example, bringing those type of corporations out, while it might not fit exactly the working demographic in Brentwood, those sorts of businesses and helping Oakley, get that done, that sort of thing is what attracts more corporations because they're beginning to move out here. So thank you.
Thank you. Edward.
So my answer is going to be very similar to Joel and Ryan's answers. I think that it is critical that we partner with our surrounding cities, Antioch, Oakley, and the upcoming areas as well, Discovery Bay. One of the critical issues that I have been talking about and really intend to have a roundtable and a frank discussion is the fire protection district. I think it's the most critical issue that we face as a region. That we all sit down and really get around supporting our fire protection district so that we don't have the absolutely underfunded issue that we have as a region today, not just as Brentwood. I think that Joel touched on a very important point as well, which is that business development is not just something that impacts just our city. So the business development that's happening in Oakley or in Antioch will also impact Brentwood and vice versa. So I think that having those discussions with the other city leaders are going to be critical in making some decisions that are going to benefit all of us. traffic is clearly a critical problem, and there are some very serious problems going along with that. I've heard a lot of talk about bringing a BART station out to Brentwood. Sounds great, but there's a whole lot of crime and a whole lot of additional issues that go along with that proposal. So there would be a lot of work into really making sure that that's something that makes sense for Brentwood before we would look at doing something like that. I would be very hesitant unless and until it could be shown that we could really address some of the issues that go along with that. So ultimately, I think that that having those partnerships is going to be critical, and I would fully intend on reaching out to the other mayors and city council staff. I recently was in a conversation with Mayor of Antioch, and I think it went pretty well, and we'll continue to talk about all the issues that affect all of us. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And Karen.
So we are already working with our neighboring cities. We have the Northern Waterfront Economic Development Initiative. It's where we're working with the county, Oakley, Antioch, Pittsburgh, and ourselves. And we are coming together as a group to market our area. Now, it's been in the process for about 2 years now. We did sign the MOU finally, the Memorandum of Understanding, last year, but we need to move this forward. It kind of got stalled at the end of the year, and then when COVID hit, it just kind of got put onto the back burner. We need to revive that, and as mayor, I'm going to push towards reviving this, because if we can market our area as a region, as an opportunity corridor, then we're going to attract those companies to come out here. What doesn't work in our area, what we're not zoned for, might work out in Pittsburgh, or vice versa, or what is in county land might not work in Brentwood. And by marketing this as a region, we'll be able to pull in companies who might not have thought of us as just Brentwood as a city. But as a region, they'll say, well, yeah, I can see us being out there, and the type of other types of businesses that go along with that also will start looking at us as a region, and maybe not even stop there. What if we were to pull in Tracy into this mix and ask them to be part of this and improve the J4 roadway? I mean, they've already started improving it through 4 lanes to Mountain House. So if we can do that and expand on the airport, we got another 500 feet that we can add on at the airport. And by increasing that, we'd be able to land the FedEx and the UPS and make it cheaper for companies coming here to be able to get their products off to market. And that'd be a wonderful thing to do.
All right, thank you. Moving on to the next question, how you would serve as mayors. What will you do as mayor, each of you, to ensure that Brentwood is inclusive, and tolerant of people from all races, religions, and cultures? Ryan?
Absolutely. This is close to home, and it's an important thing for Brentwood to start focusing on. From a lot of the conversations I've had with a lot of the racial advocates in Brentwood, is building that avenue of discussion and education. The city has never played a role in that, and I think there's a necessity and a call for that. And I have the opportunity to sit on the equity forum, which we'll be meeting on Monday. And I'm excited to see what that forum can do. I spoke on that back in, I believe, June, the June City Council meeting. I spoke on supporting that. And so I'm glad to see it come into play. And that's going to be crucial in ensuring the inclusivity, the equity, and building that equality in Brentwood. And so while Brentwood is a healthy community, and that's what we all love about Brentwood, it's not a perfect community. And I think it's important to recognize that and ensure that we're offering that avenue discussion, that avenue to education, to make Brentwood even better than it is. So thank you.
Thank you. Edward.
Thank you. So it's kind of perfect timing. I've been having a lot of interesting conversations in the Q&A as well. The things I want to state again are that I denounce racism completely. I think that it's important that all of us really understand that this is a critical time in our history as Americans and also locally dealing with some of the protests and some of the issues that we've seen lately. In order to understand where I'm coming from, I'll tell you a little bit more about myself because a lot of you may not know me. My background is I am 3/4 European and 1/4 Mexican. My grandmother was born in Aguascalientes, Mexico. I look, for lack of a better term, I look like a white guy, but I happen to have some background from native Mexico. My wife is mixed racial. She is Black and Puerto Rican, as well as some European ancestry. And between us, our children have background from 4 different continents. So I live the diversity conversation every day, dealing with the ins and outs of a multiracial family. As far as religious inclusion, I am a conservative Christian, and my wife was raised Hindu. The Puerto Rican community has a large Hindu population, and her family are practicing Hindus. We've made a multi-religious family where we accept both religions in our home and take our children to church as well as temple. So I think that ultimately how you translate that to Brentwood is really understanding that intolerance and racial prejudice have no place here in the city. I would advocate strongly to continue to have a diverse city staff, a police force, fire force. The entire city should be focused on being inclusive and having everyone have an opportunity to build the wonderful life here that my wife and my children and I have been able to build. Thank you.
Thank you. And Karen?
So I was contacted yesterday by someone who wanted to find out where I stood regarding diversity. And, one of the things I was explaining to her, I said that going around the Thanksgiving table at the last Thanksgiving where we had a big family, my brother's wife is Filipino, and my daughter-in-law's parents were there, and my grandchildren are interracial, and not at the table, but my other brother is married to a Bolivian. So there's a little bit of change there. I mean, you look at this 5'10" blonde-haired white woman, and you wonder, what does she know about, racial prejudice and so forth? Well, what I hear is from family and what they've gone through. And it's something that nobody should have to go through, that racism doesn't belong in our society. And a pastor said it best at a prayer vigil where he says, we got to stop hitting that snooze button, that when a racial injustice happens, that we get up and we say, here, we're going to get this all done. We're going to improve things. And things do happen. Change does happen. But then everybody gets comfortable, hits the snooze button, and things roll back a little bit. And we got to stop hitting that snooze button. The Equity Forum is what we have has been formed to help drive policy. We need to drive policy through that forum from people who are bringing things to light, discuss the best practices for our city, and to make change through that equity forum. And I think that's where we need to start. And that in itself will drive change for our community and hopefully healing.
Thank you. And Joel?
Well, this is something that's very personal to me as well. I am from a biracial family. My father is Native American. My mother is a white minority. She is Jewish. Her family was Jewish by blood. My father was not a Christian. His family were all very much Native in their philosophy and theology. And my mother's family's history was Jewish. I am a Christian, and I'm actually a Christian pastor here in town. I'm married to an Osage Indian who was raised in Brazil. And so I have been raised much of my life in the South, where when people saw who my family was, I was not allowed to go to their house. They couldn't come to mind when they saw my father. I have been beaten up. I've been hit with sticks and rocks and kicked and punched personally myself because of being mixed race. And my life was so much better than many of those that were around me in that environment in the early 70s and in the late 70s. So I think one of the main issues that we have as a society is the denial that there's a problem. There absolutely is a problem and has been a problem for a long time. The only way that we can fix the problem is one of the steps is this this table that everyone gets to from every ethnicity, every background, every culture, and everyone knows that diversity brings strength, not weakness. The more that we have that we are bringing our diverse strengths, our diverse cultures into our community, the more strong and the more powerful that we are going to be as families and as a home community. I want this to be, perfection is the goal. And until we get there, we have to never stop reaching until we truly are one in heart, one in spirit, and one in community, period. Perfection is the only time we stop.
All right, thank you very much. That brings us to the end of our 8 questions, but it looks like we have time for a couple of questions if you are all amenable from the community who've reached out. So I've got a couple here that seem to be a common theme that kind of was coming through. So I will go ahead and start with those 2 of them. And Edward, I will start with you. You can answer this question first. What are your thoughts or plans for a community youth center here in Brentwood?
So I think a community youth center here in Brentwood is a mistake. I think there's a couple of reasons for that. The number one reason is that our funding is going to have some serious issues going forward because of COVID-19. While we have had a well-funded city up to this point and have had the ability to do things that we would have liked to do, I think that we really need to look at our critical needs as far as policing, fire, infrastructure services, and understand that even though our books might look nice today, typically government funding lags 6 to 18 months behind. So next year, we are going to see a serious and significant impact in our fiscal spending for the city because of the reduction in income related to COVID. So I think it's not the right time to be opening up something that is not a critical service to protect Brentwood citizens. On that note, I'll just tell you a basic tenet of my philosophy as far as what government's job is. I believe that the primary job of government is to protect its people, their property, and their liberty. And that's what I would choose to focus on as your mayor, would be making sure that you have the services in order to keep you safe and keep you free and happy to be an American and a citizen of Brentwood. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Karen.
You know, our city is long overdue for a youth center. I've been here since 1995 and there has never been anything for our kids to do. I remember when my boys were in middle school over at Edna Hill, and they had the PAL out there, and there was over 100 kids that would go out there each day after school to participate in the PAL program. And it just kept growing. And then they were busing or vanning kids over from other schools to that location as well as time went on. So we need a youth center. Is right now the right time? No, it's not. Until we know financially where we stand, I think that we need to first put pause and look at what our budget is. We cut $4.1 million out of our budget in order to balance it this year. We are going to get an update, but will we have the $450,000 to $700,000 a year to pay for ongoing expenses, and not just over the next couple of years? What does it look like in 10 years? What does it look like in 20 years? We do have the 10-year fiscal model that we can extrapolate it out and look at the cost increases and so forth. So we need to look at that before we start spending money on a youth center. We don't even know what COVID's going to be like through the flu season? Is it going to shut more businesses down? Are we going to roll back from the red tier to the purple tier because they can't tell the difference between COVID and the flu? Will that affect our businesses again who've had to shutter their doors because they can no longer do business outdoors because it's raining and cold and windy? We need to get through at least to the first quarter of the year before we start looking at whether or not we're going to fund the renovation of a youth center and whether or not we're going to be able to pay for the ongoing costs for that. And that's what we need to do first before we do anything else.
Okay, thank you. Joel.
Well, I am in full support of the youth center, but you know, there have been some very good points that have been made about continuing the sustainability of it. One of the key points that we really need to look at is to find a public partnership and a private partnership. Let the city work with public and private partners to come in and provide services. I've already been approached by the workers unions offering the ability to offer classes and training for our young people in town, giving them some skill sets that at the very least they'll be able to fill out their wife's honey-do list. And at best, maybe they don't desire to go to college. Maybe they want to become a tradesman, and have that available locally for our families and our community would be an outstanding opportunity. In addition to having a place where our young people can learn. If you want to talk about becoming more diverse and respecting other cultures, the best way to do that is get various cultures together and let them see each other as individuals, as peoples, as humans, and let them see that we truly do have so much more in common than we do different. That a youth center is a perfect example of how you can bring our families and our young people together and develop mutual respect, develop skill sets, develop a place to have them as a parent. I would love to have my kids know where they were and who they were with instead of out in the fields making up their own entertainment, because when we moved here, it's always been said Brentwood doesn't have anything for our kids to do. Let's give them a safe environment that they can teach each other and learn from each other as to what being genuine, caring humans are, because we have wonderful people that live here in town. I don't know of anybody that I'm not happy that they're my neighbor in town. And I think a youth center would only cause a greater environment to head toward what we all want. Everyone I've talked to wants to be as a community, and that is really a family.
All right, thank you. And Ryan.
So obviously I understand, well, I'm young. I can see where people might think that I'm a bit biased here. But I want people to know that I look at what the facts are at first. So let's go back to some of the staff reports on that initial youth center. Where the majority of the money would come out for renovation would be the CIP budget, a dedicated fund specific to renovation, and those funds cannot be used anywhere else. So if it's that fund consists of about $9 million, that goes to basic improvements of building. That building is one of the oldest buildings in Brentwood. It hasn't been renovated or improved in well over 30 years. And so regardless if you're going to sell it or keep it, the renovations are going to have to be done. And where the money's coming from is that fund. The second thing to remember and to see, and from what the staff reports are from the city, were if you keep that building empty, if you don't do anything, what you're going to end up having is a higher cost to the city. And so while if it's empty, it's going to be approximately $250,000 to $350,000 a year. If you're to fill that space with nonprofits, with unions, with youth centers, and I know the Concord Youth Center would shut down, and that nonprofit is still functioning, very much wants to get involved in this program, you can actually see the cost per year about $123,000. And that's one of the lowest sustaining costs in Brentwood. So that includes the senior center, the center, the city council center. So there are multiple programs in Brentwood being run, and the youth center could be one of the cheapest ones and actually end up saving the city money. So while we can sit here and say we want to be conscious about our budget and end up not doing anything, we're going to actually hurt our city. And so if you start to take action, you start to fill those spaces, you're going to save our city money. And so that's where I stand on a youth center. Thank you.
All right. Looks like we have time for one more question, and this is from viewers as well. What are your views about keeping the local schools closed or reopening them due to COVID. Karen, we're going to go ahead and start with you.
I'm not sure how we can do anything about it, as the school districts have their own elected school boards. They have their own budgets. They make their decisions based on the research that they have done. Do I think it's hurting our kids? Yes, our kids are social by nature. Not being able to get together with friends is affecting a lot of the kids. Kids also learn different ways. We're into a new school year, and well, at the end of last year, teachers knew how their students learned, and so they were able to help accommodate those students that way. And I think with the new school year, it's going to take a while before the teacher realizes that, this child learns this way, this one, needs some extra help because they're not doing well here. And so I fear that kids are going to fall through the cracks if we don't do something to help them. But opening the schools is strictly a school district decision. And while we can talk to the school board members, discuss what their concerns are, see what we can do to help them, the sole decision is left to the school boards.
Okay, thank you. Joel.
Well, like Councilperson Rary said, the city has very little influence right now in the city, in the schools coming back together. As a resident that has a lot of friends that have kids at home, and the hardship that this whole situation has brought on, I'm in full support of the schools opening as soon as safely possible. At the same time, the directors, the presidents of the school, the school boards have a nearly impossible decision. They have their hands tied at the state level, at the federal level, at the local level. There's very little sway back and forth. Some of the business concerns that a school district has also is whether or not they have the insurance to cover something that would happen. Currently, I don't believe that one of our school districts has insurance that would take care of a mass outbreak should something happen again with the COVID outbreak in our community. None of the parents, none of us want our kids to be sick or ill. We all want them to be able to be safely together again and learn again. We're social beings. We need each other. We're stronger together. At the same time, we're limited by laws and ordinances that are out of our control right now. So I am in full support, and I totally understand the parents. As a parent, that lived in a place that had snow days, I thought sometimes a week being snowed in was crazy in Washington D.C. But I'm here to tell you, 4, 5, 6 months of being locked in with your kids as a parent has some of our parents ready to go on solo vacations on a catamaran around the world. We have got to take care of our kids. I'm in support of them getting back together, but we also have to understand the limitations and the concerns of the people responsible. Because if one child gets sick, the directors and the principals are going to take it very personally, and they do. They love our kids. And so let's have a little more patience with them, but let's get back together as soon as we can.
Okay, thank you. Ryan.
I think if anyone could speak on this issue, it's probably me. I'm in class every day, and quite honestly, it's pretty terrible. If you're taking calculus online, I don't recommend it. It's very difficult. It's hard to communicate with teachers. Difficult to get things across. And so, of course, I want to go back to school. Now, with that being said, the conversations I've had with Superintendent Volta, Superintendent Eaton, who I've known for quite a while, they have to do it safely. And at the end of the day, that's what has to be done. And like the previous speaker said, we simply don't have control over the school district, but we can encourage them, and we can put our support behind them when they are ready to open safely. And when they are, I think we should do it immediately, because it is difficult and students' grades are hurting. they're losing self-confidence. I mean, this is a time when it's most crucial years for sophomore and juniors. That's what goes on college applications. Those are what colleges are looking like. And when your first quarter is completely in distance learning, it's a severe detriment to their application. And so if you can get back in school, that's absolutely what I want to see. But we have to do it safely. And that's quite honestly, that's up to the superintendents, and that's up to the school districts.
All right, thank you. And Edward.
So absolutely, as I said, I am a firm supporter of reopening our schools now, not later, if at all possible. I fully understand that the mayor doesn't make that decision, that the school districts have a lot to do with it, that the state and county have a lot to do with it as far as their decisions. That being said, as mayor, it would be my job to be a vocal and outspoken advocate for reopening our economy and our schools. And that's exactly what I intend to do. There are options for people that do not want to simply do distance learning. My family is very involved in the local homeschooling community. And it's an excellent option for some families. For other families, maybe it's not the right decision. But my point is, very simply and very clearly, our children are suffering because of the policies of the county and the state. There are ways to reopen schools safely. Most other states in the United States of America have done that safely and effectively. Even states that have higher rates of COVID-19 have found ways to open schools with safety procedures in place. There is no reason why we couldn't do that in East Contra Costa County today. And it's something that I would passionately and strongly advocate for on day one as mayor of Brentwood. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I think we have time for just one more question that I wanted to try and get out there. What I'm going to do, though, is offer you guys just to have 1 minute to answer and respond to the question. And we will start with Joel. And the question is, what specifically would you do as mayor to bring new businesses to downtown Brentwood?
Well, the first thing I would do is continue to reduce the regulation, such as what we did recently. We eliminated the parking space requirements to bring businesses downtown. I would continue to add grants to make available so that we can not only attract our businesses, but sustain the businesses that are currently there, because the ones we have in town are more important or equally important as any that we might attract downtown. So we need to make sure we take care of our current business owners, and with a good solid business environment that they currently work in and have, that is what attracts others. When our local businesses are successful, then other businesses look at the success and want to be in that environment. And so that's exactly what I would continue to do.
Thank you. Ryan.
I think if we want to help small business, we have to stop thinking small-minded. We have these little tiny grants, put them on, help them get outdoor seating or small things. You go downtown, you talk to some of the business owners, you'll find they're not getting any help. They've never gotten help from the city. And so we have to stop thinking small-minded and start thinking about exactly what Brentwood can do. And that starts with providing incentive, cutting regulation, which we really haven't done. And you'll ask any business owner, if we have, it hasn't helped them. And so putting together a task force completely dedicated to that purpose, that's how you're going to see Brentwood businesses start to thrive. And I've talked with some of the business owners. If you start, helping with utility rates, if you can help in terms of, once again, the sign ordinances, there are specifics that Brentwood owners are wanting to see, but that's about getting it done. And we simply haven't done it. So thank you.
Thank you. Edward.
Sure. So I think that it is important to continue to attract business to our downtown area. And I certainly would want to do that and agree with much of what Joel and Ryan said, cutting regulations and incentivizing businesses to come here, giving them opportunities to get started with some help from the city. That being said, I think the critical piece that we need to remember for Brentwood is that we're not focused just on our downtown businesses. We need to focus on high wage jobs so that we will be attracting people to commute to Brentwood rather than to be forced to commute from Brentwood to a job somewhere else. I think that the Innovation Center is a great start on that path. I think that the fiber optic technology is critical and is going to be something that I would focus specifically on recruiting technology-based jobs from Silicon Valley, your Googles, your Apples, companies along those lines that are going to come here because we have inexpensive property, we have a business-friendly environment that I would continue to support, and because ultimately we have the resources available and already being built that they need in order to be successful here. Thank you.
Thank you. And Karen?
You know, the interesting thing about the downtown area is prior to COVID, we actually had finally filled up every single location in downtown Brentwood. So what do we need to do to keep them? And at our last council meeting, I actually requested for a future agenda item to look at what we can do to keep them. Is it grants? Is it workshops? Is it one-on-one counseling? To determine what it is that they need to do to move forward, and not just move forward, to recover from COVID and to grow. We need to focus on economic gardening, not just in Brentwood, downtown Brentwood, but across our entire city, on growing the businesses that we have and helping them move up in size and sales. And of course, people do show, or studies do show that people shop where they work, they return where they live, and with the 88% of our public commuting out of the area each day, we're losing those sales tax dollars to other cities. And by bringing in the Innovation Center at Brentwood, it's going to increase that daytime foot traffic. People are going to be shopping here in Brentwood. They're going to be going out to eat during their lunches, or maybe out to dinner after work, going out for some entertainment, and that in itself will help the recovery of our city.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for everyone's response. All right. Now we're going to close out with the final candidate statements. You will have 90 seconds each to wrap up for this evening, and we will start with Ryan.
I'll be honest, this has been one of the most rewarding experiences of my life. And I'm excited to get to work for the city, win or lose. The connections I've made, the people that have come behind me, I think I'm gonna have an incredible opportunity to help this city, whether or not I'm in that office in November, in December. And so, but I just want to come back to why I ran. I ran to offer Brentwood something new, something they haven't had for a very long time. You know, what's best for Brentwood is not what's best for special interest, and that's what I'm representing. I am your blank slate. I am something that Brentwood has never seen, and that's innovation and something new. And so with the people that I've been able to connect with what I'm offering, I'd love to see, you know, us improve, increase fire and emergency services, create Brentwood a more business-friendly environment, and then also have that kind of community-friendly feel that we've started to lose over the past decade or so. And so with that, my name is Ryan Ramondia. I'm running for mayor in the city of Brentwood, and I'm asking for your vote in November. Thank you.
Thank you. Edward.
So ladies and gentlemen, as you make your decisions on who to vote for this election, I want you to consider what you want for our city and who best supports your values. I have served as the Deputy Probation Officer here at Liberty High School, working with youth and families to get kids back in school, off drugs, and out of the criminal justice system. I've devoted my career to protecting the community, and I know that it takes hard work to get things to change. I'm asking for your vote because I have watched for years as the same problems get talked about in Brentwood, but little gets done to fix them. As mayor, I will be a strong advocate for our police, our fire district, our businesses, and our city. I will advocate to reopen our schools and economy now so that we can give our kids the education they deserve and our families the incomes they need. If you want to see a fresh face running for council, vote for me. If you want action instead of just talk, I'm your guy. If you want a mayor who will vote no on new housing development, I would love your support. Otherwise, you know exactly what you'll get with some of the other candidates. The same old promises, the same old problems. I am Edward Schuck, and I ask you to vote with me to send a clear message that Brentwood is ready for new leadership, new priorities, and a new path forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Karen.
Sorry about that. In 1996, I became a neighborhood activist when the homes around me began falling apart. My actions resulted in $7 million in home repairs by a residential developer and 2 new parks being built. From that point, I've served as a voice of the community, not just on the city council, but as president and chairman over his various boards, commissions, foundations. My willingness to listen to residents' concerns and bring them to the council for action makes me different from the rest of the council. When Goodwill wanted to build a light industrial processing plant at the entrance to a Balfour Road neighborhood, my research defeated that project. As illicit massage parlors began popping up in Brentwood, I called for tighter massage ordinance to curtail human trafficking and to give our police and code enforcement tools to shut those businesses down. Spurred by the boarded up Deer Ridge Clubhouse, I called for and passed stronger measures mitigating blighted businesses. I thought outside the box during this pandemic, calling for and passing an ordinance allowing restaurants to extend outdoor seating onto sidewalks, parking lots, and into streets. I listened to concerns about Highway 4 noise impacting residents' quality of life, and I called for a noise study. I get out in our community. I hold monthly coffees. I return emails, and I meet one-on-one with residents. I do these things so I can truly represent the interests of those who elected me. As mayor, I will vow to continue to do this. Today, I ask for your vote. Together, we can build a better Brentwood. Thank you.
Thank you. And Joel.
During my time on council as vice mayor, I have always listened to the desires and concerns of our families and businesses. You said we needed better emergency response, so I helped to head the effort to bring to Brentwood our own police dispatch and 911, which drastically reduced response times and virtually eliminated the experience of calling and getting no answer. Because of my time on the fire board, streamlining processes, helping to reduce the overhead, reducing retirement deficits, and bringing transparency to operations process, by hiring our current outstanding fire chief, Brian Helmick, for the first time since the formation of the East Contra Costa Fire District, we are on verge of finally having sustainable, adequate fire resources for our community. By helping to create our own waste and recycle transfer station and expanding the water treatment facilities to accommodate for more than we will ever need, I have helped to save our residents millions of dollars per year in cost. I've helped to hire enough police officers to keep us safe, streamline business requirements, and create ordinances that make us extremely desirable for future businesses, and have heavily invested in our local businesses during this time of crisis and great need. As your mayor, I will continue to put our families first, to maintain the small town feel that we all love, and will always be available to hear what you have need of. Please go to Bryant4Brentwood.com for specific information, and I would greatly appreciate the honor of being your next mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, that takes us to the end of our evening. I want to say thank you to the candidates for participating and to the public for tuning in and for your great questions. We hope everyone enjoyed the event and that it was helpful in helping you make your voting selection and process in November. And I hope for the candidates it was enlightening and good evening for you as well. Thank you and good night.
Thank you.
Well, hello, everybody. Again, this is Greg. We want to thank you so much for participating in this wonderful democratic process. Again, I would like to thank the Brentwood Chamber of Commerce, the 110 Magazine, all of our candidates. And just remember, folks, go out and vote and make your voice be heard. Gerald, did you want to say goodbye?
Yes, I want to thank all of the residents of Brentwood for making a decision to participate with us tonight. I want to thank the Brentwood Press, 110 Magazine, and all of our candidates, Joel Bryant, Ed Schuck, Karen Rary, and Ryan Ray Mundy. And I want to thank the great Ruth Roberts for her facilitation and moderation, and also the great Greg Robinson. Thank you so much. We appreciate you. Look forward to you. Go out and vote. Make your votes count. Go out and vote now so we can have a better democracy in our country and in our city. Thank you.